Well, the Eagles might have just won the draft again after only one night, especially when you hear exactly why Howie Roseman wanted linebacker Jihaad Campbell. So let's get into that, plus talk about what it means for Nakobe Dean's future and a potential twist when it comes to Jordan Davis. Meanwhile, there's tons of options remaining for the Birds, so where do they go next? Let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Hey, do me a favor, hit the like button real quick because last night was crazy and we're trying to run it back. Because come on, the Eagles got an absolute steal by drafting Alabama linebacker Jihaad Campbell at pick 31 in the first round. Something, let's just say, the rest of the league is going to end up regretting.
Look, he might fall because he had the surgery and there's injuries and whatnot. I'm telling you, a few years down the road, if he falls, we're going to look back on him and say, how on earth did he fall?
Yeah, this guy's going to be good, like really good, but before I get into the breakdown, go down to the comments section and comment any sort of takeaway you had from the draft. I mean, seriously, whatever you want. Because as long as you hit the like button and post a comment, you'll automatically be entered to win a Jihaad Campbell jersey. Now, as always, you do need to be subscribed to the channel, so make sure to do that, and good luck to you. Anyway, back to the breakdown. The reason you know this dude's going to be a stud is because Campbell is the first linebacker taken by the Eagles since Jerry Robinson out of UCLA in 1979.
It's been 84 years.
Well, not quite that long, but it's been a really long time. In fact, for those of you counting, Howie Roseman has selected 12 linebackers in his 14 drafts with the Birds. And for the record, the highest one before Campbell was Michael Kendricks, taken all the way back in 2012 at number 46 overall. Of course, maybe we should have seen this one coming since James Palmer tried to alert everyone before the draft, saying the draft is wide open for the Eagles, and that the only positions off the table early were quarterback, running back, and off-ball linebacker, unless one specific player was there.
It was right there in front of you the whole time.
Okay, yeah, clearly it's obvious now, but I'll be honest, this is one of those picks that I did not see coming. By the way, it also officially ends my streak of 2 drafts predicting who the Eagles would take in the first round since I thought Walter Nolen was the pick. Although technically, Nolen was snaked by Jonathan Gannon, so it's not like Philly really had a chance to add the interior defensive lineman anyway. And I will say that I never thought that I could dislike JG more than I already did.
Now I really hate him.
Alright, look, you guys on the live stream saw I was crushed whenever Walter Nolen came off the board at 16, and then again when Malachi Starks went to Baltimore at 27. However, I'll admit that I was so much in favor of those two guys that the blinders were kind of on so much where I was basically sleeping on Jihaad Campbell to the Eagles. But it's a fantastic pick. Like here you have a guy who led Alabama in tackles, tackles for loss, sacks, and forced fumbles. And not only that, but we're talking about an athlete who was actually recruited as a 5-star edge out of high school to play for the Crimson Tide, where, believe it or not, he ended up leading the SEC in pass rush productivity thanks to 20 pressures and 8 sacks in just 99 pass rush attempts. Plus, when it comes to questions about his coverage, shout out to Eagles Eric, but Campbell has elite coverage potential thanks to his instant acceleration and top-tier ball skills, with an especially gifted ability in match coverage, aka a scheme style that Fangio really likes to run.
You see Penn State give them a lot of credit for what they've done. They've had guys off the ball move to edge rushers. Obviously, their last 2 guys who've been drafted really high, they started off the ball and they moved to edge rushers. Vic does a tremendous job with getting guys who have pass rush ability to be versatile players like that. And I think what's really fun is that those guys who have that versatility, who can go out on the edge and get pressure as a rusher, and he's got speed, he's got power as an edge rusher, he was trained as an edge rusher, and then he's got the versatility to play off the ball and blitz from depth and play in space, in pass coverage, as an off-ball linebacker. And so the things that you can do and keep all these players on the field. So for us, you know, it's just we always want to improve the front 7, and we view him as a front 7 player who's got incredible versatility and a skill set to do both those things. And the appeal is that he's got this rush skill set, and he's 21 years old. He turned 21 on February 24th. So you know, like, he's got upside to grow and get bigger, and his frame is such that he can put on more weight and more strength. And so, as you can tell, excited about the player. This guy can grow into anything you want. And what I'm saying is Vic has done a tremendous job with kind of educating me on the way that he looks at things and the way I look at things. And we have a lot of these conversations about it. And obviously, you know, those are great conversations. For me, I'm continuing to learn every day. That's the beautiful part about the job that we have. And but at the end of the day, like, you see it in what's going on in the league. And Zack Baun's a great example. I mean, these guys, they can rush from the edge, they can play in space, they can affect the quarterback from depth from the edge, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys like that, and the league has changed, and I think the league it's a speed game, and when you have guys with those kind of explosive qualities, and you want to get as many as you can.
I'm pretty sure most people are fans of this pick, but if you're not, you're just kind of questioning it, not quite sure there, I'm trying to put your mind at ease because Howie was not going to miss out on this player. Heck, in case you don't recall, Ian Rappaport and others shared that Howie attempted to trade up multiple times around 20 to 25 so that they could land the Bama Bird. It's just that one anonymous GM leaked that nearly everyone was blocking the 215 area code for fear of getting fleeced into a deal with the GOAT.
Something just came across my desk, John. It is perhaps the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months.
All right, ultimately, it didn't matter because they got the deal done, traded with the Kansas City Chiefs, a 5th-round selection to move up 1 pick. It's very minimal. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, way to give up a pick for it. A 5th-round selection, you still have 12 next year. You have a ton of draft capital in this draft. It's perfectly fine, but again, I think it just tells you how much of trading, how he was willing to give up. He was desperate to land his player. Or heck, honestly, just look at the pick reaction after making the selection, and you can tell just how hyped the draft room was that the pick was practically delivered right to their front door. And look, if you want more of that type of energy in your life, then you need to start using DoorDash to sponsor today's video. You gotta admit, it's pretty amazing we live in a world where you can get anything you need when you need it delivered right to your door. Because DoorDash isn't just a door to flowers, groceries, and fresh produce. It's your door to better relationships, time back with loved ones, and never missing a single second of the big game, or I guess in my case this weekend, never missing a second of the draft. But seriously, between staying on top of picks, Eagles news, and hunting down the latest info on trades and rumors, I barely have time to leave the studio. However, thanks to the food delivery app, I can basically get any type of food I want along with snacks and even drinks delivered right to my front door. The best part is the delivery is super quick and saves me the time and inconvenience of having to go out and get it. After all, DoorDash is your door to more, so download the app or scan the QR code to get basically anything delivered, and then use code PhillySpecial50 to get 50% off up to $10 on your first order of $15 or more. Limited time offer, again, code PhillySpecial50 to get 50% off up to $10 on your first order of $15 or more. All right, so the Eagles did admit in the presser after night 1 that Jihaad Campbell was a top 10 player on their board, which I guess isn't that much of a surprise when you realize that the 21-year-old scored a 9.88 out of 10 when it comes to his relative athletic score compared to all linebackers in draft history. Meaning, yeah, his range is elite. Although the most dangerous part for me is just how versatile this pick is. Think about it. You got a guy who plays with his hair on fire and can walk down to play on the edge and rush the passer. Just the fact alone that you can confuse an opposing offense with multiple options for your starting linebackers is a mismatched nightmare. Now granted, like the Philly Blitz shared, I feel for Nakobe Dean, but Campbell and Baun are now interchangeable. For instance, think back to the Saints game earlier this year when the Eagles used a ton of 5-2 fronts and how impactful Baun was. Yeah, pretty self-evident, but Campbell adds even more of that same type to the system. So personally, I feel like the Birds have a really good idea of how they're going to use their first rounder. However, in the introductory presser, they definitely played it coy by simply stating he can make an impact all over the field.
I think just being, like a dominant force for the defense. So really just put me wherever and just, finding different schemes for me to play and, making an impact.
It's pretty well known that you came in as more, you played defensive end in high school, and then that was kind of what you started out at Alabama. Do you have a preference in terms of, what you like to play or what you think brings out the best?
Man, I'm just ready to be the best version of myself each and every day, and compete, you know what I'm saying? And, be that dominant force at whatever the coach wants to put me at, honestly.
We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We have, we look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time. And so when you're in a draft and you're picking at the end of the first round, you have an opportunity to get a top 10 player on your board, a guy who can affect the quarterback, a guy who can affect the passing game. For us, it was a no-brainer. A local kid, great character, so we were really excited to add him.
By the way, if you weren't entirely sure about the injury concerns or what they're referencing there, so Campbell actually recently had shoulder surgery or did have shoulder surgery to repair a torn labrum, and then, you put 2 and 2 together. Yeah, that's obviously why he started to fall down the board. Because, after all, just on talent alone, he's a mid-first rounder, no question. Yet surgery on one shoulder had teams thinking he could very well start the season on the physically unable to perform list, and perhaps even more concerning, there's rumors he may need another surgery on his other shoulder after next season. Oh yeah, plus there were also questions about one of his knees as well.
I knew this day was too good to be true.
Relax just a little bit. How are you feeling about this pick, honestly? I mean, think about it here. How are you feeling? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in Jihaad Campbell? And do you have any questions or fears or concerns about the medical history? Again, Howie and the Eagles said they did their homework and they're trusting the results. Plus, Jihaad spoke on that side as well.
I'm just taking it day by day with, the shoulder process, just making sure, like I said earlier, I'm just maximizing every day, that I can get better, that I can heal up. So I'm just taking this process day by day. I ain't even really looking, like too far ahead or anything like that. I'm really just, trying to focus on like tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I got to go up to the Eagles, but I'm going to definitely give me a nice little workout in the morning, so I can maximize my strengths and, just getting my shoulder back right. So that's what I'm most worried about.
For the record, I'm trusting it. I think we're going to be more than okay here. Of course, on the topic of injury-related questions, it does immediately bring up Nakobe Dean, who ironically provided his own update right around the same time Jihaad Campbell did to NBC Sports.
Rehab going good. I'm getting better daily. Just continue to work and get better day in and day out.
And do you have a timetable for when you think you'll be ready to go 100% on the field?
I mean, yeah, I plan to be back. I plan to be back in no time, so we just continue to work and get better daily. God got me, and I'm continuing to work. I feel good, and I'm continue to work to feel better.
Look, I've said this a couple times. I'm extremely hopeful that Nakobe can get back to 100%, especially before the season starts, but the more that you read up on it, you hear from medical experts, it's incredibly unlikely. It's not impossible. I hope that Nakobe proves us wrong, but it's incredibly unlikely with a torn patellar tendon, that type of injury, that Nakobe Dean is back to or even close to 100% before the season starts. Now, that's not to say Dean's time is done in Philly. It's far from it. I mean, Howie even reiterated the belief in Nakobe while also saying the Campbell pick didn't have as much to do with Dean. It was more so just about adding another big-time football player who could make a difference. So I don't know, maybe Campbell moves back to edge and it's not even as much of a competition at off-ball linebacker. Granted, my personal preference would still be to look at him at off-ball first, but, we'll see how they go. Still, at the same time, I will say that it is noteworthy when we go back to, and in case you weren't aware of this, you go back to the NFL Combine, after Jihaad Campbell went through all the regular drills with linebackers, he actually stayed late to do pass rush drills, and the Eagles were one of the teams to stick around and watch. And also, maybe even more importantly, the only visit the 21-year-old had with Philly was with defensive end and outside linebacker coach Jeremiah Washburn. Now, maybe that's nothing, but it does feel like there could be something there. Of course, had he spoken with Howie before this, then we probably wouldn't have gotten the same draft reaction.
Once I see the number, I'm like, pretty interesting. Okay. So I answered it, and it was Howie, but he was like, you know what this is? You know what this is? I'm like, nah. And then that's when he's like, it's Howie Roseman. I was about to break down, man, because, it was just a surreal moment, for me and my family. Like, my grandfather, I'm talking way back in Randall Cunningham days. He always watched the Eagles, and he always loved the Eagles. My pops, my mom, my two brothers, my uncle, my whole family, so it was definitely a special moment, for me and my family.
That's awesome. That is also one of my favorite parts to get the draft reactions, but also, hey, his family is already accustomed to the Eagles' ways. Like regularly winning, making the playoffs, and obliterating NFC East quarterbacks, in particular New York Giants quarterbacks. All right, if you don't understand why I brought that up, it's because the Giants traded up to take Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, and then not long after, the Eagles selected Jihaad Campbell, a.k.a. the dude who unleashed holy hell on Dart last season and is someone he probably isn't looking forward to seeing again.
But really, he just scares me.
Great, I'm all for that. Campbell's going to make Dart's experience in New York a miserable one. Anyway, while we're on the topic of New York, though, they also did select a pass rusher of their own in Penn State's Abdul Carter, which of course many were wondering or speculating if that might immediately make Kayvon Thibodeaux a potential trade target. However, just minutes after making that selection, GM Joe Schoen officially picked up the fifth-year option in Thibodeaux's contract, saying you can never have too many pass rushers. And that might be one of the few moves that Schoen's gotten right over the last couple seasons. The question for Philly is, do they decide to pick up the fifth-year option on Jordan Davis? Because FYI, but the Birds now have less than a week to decide if they want to pick up that option for a grand total of $12.9 million in 2026. Otherwise, if they don't, then we're looking at potentially JD's final season in Philly. Now, I've said this before, but I think some people underestimate Jordan Davis's impact on the defense, yet at the same time, you can only pay so many guys. And with the young, talented guys up front, it's felt like Howie may be willing to let JD try and earn a big contract elsewhere. Again, all things being equal, I'd love to keep JD around. But from strictly a business side, it's kind of a win-win. One, either he doesn't perform well and then perhaps you can get him on a team-friendly deal, or two, he's a beast this season and then you basically repeat what happened with Milton Williams, net a third-round compensatory pick, and you move on. I don't know, maybe I'm off on that one, but I do think that night 2 tells us a whole lot about the big man's future. Seriously, lots of options left, and if Howie decides to go with someone on the interior, then I think that tells you all you need to know about JD's fate. And honestly, the same for Dallas Goedert when it comes to selecting a tight end. Heck, there's tons of potential options with several steals left in rounds 2 and 3. So let's go. Come hang out with us during the stream again as we run it back for night 2 of the draft. By the way, if this video can get 4,000 likes, then I will double the giveaway that we have during the live stream tonight. Speaking of which, congrats to John2000-1 for winning the signed Jalen Hurts Super Bowl jersey. All I need you to do, bro, is email me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com so that I can get your info and confirm it's you. Anyway, lots more moves to be made, plenty of time to go, lots of draft capital, but let me know your thoughts, takeaways for night 1. Also, who do you hope the Eagles end up drafting moving forward? Let me know in the comments. We'll catch you on the live stream. This has been The Philly Special.